welcome back to another video of jPlay. I'm Marcus and long time no see, and as I've decided to do a very small series around my loot from Essen this year with very short videos, I think let's fill up the time by showing my face. I hope you don't mind. I will start with Time Masters, and I'm not so sure if I will show you every bit and piece I got from Essen, but we'll focus on some of the key findings here. And Time Masters itself is called the deck building crafted to bend time. I think there might be game missing or something like that. And on the back side it says play the role of a wizard who can bend time with magic spells to influence the gameplay of your components in a unique challenge. Yes, Time Masters is a deck building game by Mushroom Games. The designer is Pierre-Emmanuel Legrand. The illustrations are from Dimitri Piot, and basically the artwork is what caught my attention, and as I'm a visual guy I definitely wanted to check this one out. So I think I will show you the pieces that come with the game. Most of it's of course are cards, and I think I will explain you the core mechanics, but as mentioned I will keep it short and crisp, and in order to show you as many games as possible in the course of the next days or maybe weeks. Time Masters is a game for 2 to 4 players, 13 and up. I think you can play it with younger players, that's for sure. The in-game decisions are not that difficult to catch, and the overall game mechanics at all. It plays in around 35 minutes. Sometimes you can do it a little bit faster, really depending on your player style and with how many players you play it actually. As Time Masters is a deck building game, of course the main portion of the components are cards. 140 of them in the base game, and you get 16 more if you are lucky like myself and grab yourself the extension. I think you just replace some of the cards, but beware you don't play with all of the cards at the same time, but I come to that in a second. Then there are these reminder tokens, I think they are called, and they just give you some little player aid in order to remind other players on which spells you casted on them. So for example, when they have to pay more of those K tokens here, and those K tokens are basically the only real resource in this game, and they represent small portions of a day. I think around 15 minutes, at least this is what they are referring to in the rules. And those tokens come in 2 flavors. One, the blue one here, these are basically ephemeral K, so something that you spend and then it's gone basically. Your main resources are those recurrent Ks. These are double-sided, so when you spend them you flip them to the inactive side, and then later on you are able to regain that piece of the day back in order to cast additional spells. Typical for a deck building game, each player starts the game with the same set of cards consisting of some of those spells. The spells you can easily recognize because they have a casting cost at the top right corner of the card. Each player starts the game with some of those concentration cards here. Those concentration cards can give you back some of your time, so you can reactivate your recurrent K. And all the players start the game with one of those timer cards, right now with only 1 slot. And this is something that is relatively unique to this gameplay, so you don't have to cast your cards immediately. You can put them under these timer cards and then use them in a later turn, which is pretty neat, I guess. Additionally, each player starts the game with 4 of those recurrent K tokens, so you have 1 hour at the start of the game where you are able to bend time. The main deck consists of those 5 spheres, as they are referring to in the rulebook. So you recognize a sphere, so basically a level on the top left corner here. This is for once the sphere, so basically also the amount you have to pay for it in order to acquire it, but I come to that in a second. And additionally, each card that you have bring you the amount of victory points equal to the sphere. You start the game with only taking out 10 of those 20 cards in those deck. Normally you do that at random, but of course you can always decide on creating your own stack of available cards. But the standard mode of play is using 10 cards at random from each of those decks. At the start of the game, each player shuffles his starting hand of 10 cards and draws 5 cards at random from this deck. All the other cards are, of course, the
redraw pile. So this is a starting hand for the first player here. He has 2 of those concentration cards. Right now we don't need them. Right now all our K are basically on the active golden side. We have 2 spells and we have 1 timer card. I think the timer card doesn't cost anything. Only spells do really cost some actual K. So we will definitely place the timer card into our timer area on the top left corner. It doesn't really matter where you put that, but you have to remember where your actual timer area is. The rules say it's on the top left of your player area. Normally you would start each game round with a timer phase, but you skip that during your very first round because there are no any timers on the board yet. Right now we have done that, so this is now an empty timer. The timer is completely empty. This one only has 1 spot, so we don't really have to care about that one. In the next phase, this is the main phase. You could either decide to pass. Right now that's not a good idea to do that. Passing allows you to basically reactivate all of your K tokens here. And then you would skip to the play, or you would jump to the play phase if you not have passed in the very first round. As I said, it's not very wise to do that. So now you would play 1 or more cards. In this case, we already played our timer card here right now. It doesn't cost us anything. It just is out of the way. And I think it's pretty good to have it prepared. Then we would be allowed to play those concentration cards. As I said, right now we don't need that at this point in time. But what's really important is to play some actual spells. And those spells, the suggestion spells, cost you 3k in order to cast this spell. So when we do this now, let's do that. So we want to cast this spell. This goes to the top right area of your game board. This is your active spells area. In this case, we would say, okay, we have to activate now 3 of our K tokens here because the card told us so, and the suggestion allows us to redraw a card from our hand, which we will do now. And here we have another focus card. And now we could easily play this focus card or all 3 of those focus cards in order to reactivate our starting K. So we have played these cards. This goes directly to our discard pile. Easy as that. And we still have this 1 card on hand. And I think let's cast this card here as well. We will again activate 3 of our K. You see how we are bending time, getting rid of time and getting it back. And this would allow us again to redraw a card. And this is another spell. This is a charge card which we could have played before. It says your next spell will cost 1k less to cast. Right now we keep it on our hand, and that's basically our play phase because we don't have any more time left to cast this Ethos Cipher spell. After the play phase, we come to the shopping phase or access the spheres phase, where I can acquire new card. And how does it work? You remember that I casted 2 spells in this turn, so 2 active spells. This is basically the currency for this round on how much I'm allowed to acquire. So with 2 cast spells in this round, I can acquire a card from the Sphere 2 deck, and only the top card. If I don't like this card, I could go to the card beneath it, but therefore I need to spend an additional point, which I cannot do because I only casted 2 spells. I could do that on the Sphere 1 deck here, so I could either go for this top card here, which would cost me 1 resource points, in this case spell points, which I have virtually in my head, or I could say I want to take the card beneath it because I don't like the replacement card here. In this case I would have to spend 2 spell points, let's call it that way. I think I will do that now, so I don't like this card. I will go for the next card, and this is another timer card. And this is a very good timer card because it provides me 2 slots basically, and for each spell played on this timer I am allowed to draw an additional card and would have to discard a card for that. So this card now goes into my hand, and this is very unique to this game. It does not go to my discard pile. I can take this card directly to my hand. So for the next round I have those 2 cards available. I could still spend those 2 cards in order to reactivate one of my K tokens, but I think they're kind of nice. I think I want to stick to those cards. And just as a note, it really doesn't matter how expensive those spells were I casted or from which sphere they are. Really only the amount of spells I casted in this turn is basically my currency for this shopping phase of the actual round. So if I wanted to go for this awesome tenacity spell here, I would have to spend four spells beforehand in this round, and for the very first turn I think this is pretty hard to do. But I think in a later turn that's definitely not a problem. After the shopping phase we come to the end of turn phase, so I will discard all of my spells in my spell zone, and basically I take all the cards that are related to timers and stuff like that, but I think I will explain that in the next round, and then I would be allowed to draw up to 5 cards. So in this case I would be allowed to draw 3 additional cards, 2, 3, now my deck is empty, and this will be my starting hand for the next round. And as I just showed you in the rules, you are not allowed to reactivate your time or K tokens here. This is really something that you have to take care of on your own. Then it would be the next player's turn. He would do something very similar to what I did, and then I would basically come to my turn again. The first thing would be the timer phase. But right now the timer is not fully loaded or armed in this point in time, so I don't suffer any penalties and I don't have to activate the cards that are here. So normally you have to activate all the cards that are in there. And normally I would now tend to either pass, so whatever, not playing any cards, and then I would be allowed to rearm my markers. I could discard 2 of my cards, and for each 2 cards I would discard, could reactivate one of those K tokens, but I really wanted to show you how these timer cards actually work. So I think I will play those energy loop, and I won't play to the active area right now, but I will park it below the timer. Therefore, I still have to pay the cost for this spell here, so I have to spend 1K, and then I can move it below this timer card here. And that's basically it. I think I cannot do anything else. I have not actually actively casted a spell at this point in time. So I'm also not allowed to acquire any new cards from the general decks here. I still could discard 2 of those cards to regain 1 of those K, but I think I'm not. I will just redraw up to 5 cards, and here I have another spell, the Berserk spell, another suggestion spell. I think we already showed that to you. And then it would be another player's turn, and then again we would come back to this player. And this time we definitely have to look at the timer phase. Once 1 or more of my timers are fully loaded, like this one here, this only got 1 slot here, I now have to either activate this timer, which means I would discard this timer and then I would cast this spell. I don't have to pay the cost for that because I already did. Or the second option would be to delay the timer. And delaying a timer is pretty simple. You take 1 of your cards from your hand, you push it below your timer to know, okay, I have delayed it now, and then I can choose to not activate this timer. And sometimes this can be pretty powerful, especially when you have a timer with 2 slots, or when you're going for some powerful combos for the next round or something like that. Or sometimes really the effect of your card or your spell in the timer doesn't really fit in the coming turn. In this case you could really decide to delay this timer. So still I'm very pretty low on money or on time in this point in time. So in this case I guess I would really go for a pass here. So I'm not playing any cards. Passing means I am allowed to recharge all of my K tokens here. So for the next round I'm good. Now the next thing is I would be able to draw up to 5 cards. But here the timer comes into effect again, because the cards that I use to delay the timer basically add to the number of my hand. So in this case I already have 5 cards on my hand, so I'm not allowed to draw up additional cards for the next round. Again, some other players do their stuff, and then we come back to this player. Now we come again to the timer phase. Again, I have to decide, do I want to play this card or do I want to delay it again? So again, I could take a card from my hand and move it below, But yeah, I think in this case I really don't care. I don't want to do that, so I will activate those cards. So the timer and the delaying card go below my discard pile. I will cast this spell here. I already paid the price, remember that. And then I could still go for additional cards. So I think I will play the additional timer here, which is always a good thing. And let's see, maybe I will cast this card here. So I have to spend 2 of those K tokens here in order to cast this card, which also says your next spell will cost 1 K less. So I will keep 1 reminder token here, -1, so I know my next spell will be cheaper to cast. So for example, then I could go for this spell here. Normally this would cost me 1 K, but because of this token here, this doesn't cost me anything, so I can give this token back. And I think that's basically it for this turn. Again, I casted 3 spells this round. So I could go for the top card of the Sphere 3 deck here, for example. I could go to the top or second card of the 2 deck, or I could go for the top card of the 1 and 2 deck here. And I think this is what I will do in order to gain some additional cards. So I will take these 2 cards, they are worth 3 spell points basically, and take them into my hand. Of course, we will reveal the next cards, and then basically our turn is over. So I think I would discard those 2 cards in order to reactivate 1 of my K tokens, and then I would end my turn, which means I discard those active spell cards, and then I would draw up to 5 cards again. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this goes on until 2 of those Sphere decks are completely depleted. So when the last player has taken the last card of this Sphere 2 deck, for example, 3 is already gone in this example, then the end of the turn or the end of the game would directly be triggered. Each player counts the victory points that are printed on the top left of the card, so basically based on the sphere. The higher the sphere, the more victory point it brings you. And whoever has the most of those sphere points can claim himself the Time Master of this tournament and will be the winner of Time Masters. Some final thoughts on Time Masters, and again, I will keep it as crisp as possible. This is really a fast-paced deck building game. I totally love the artwork, and I also love the theme. So when you look at those cards, these are really awesome and they're really unique. So this is completely my style. Personally, the game for me is a little bit too light in respect to the rules. Of course, Dominion is also relatively light. But I think in respect to all the expansion there are, you really have a richer gaming experience here. And I think also the variability of those cards are a little bit more depth. But really for someone who enjoys optimizing his deck and wants to do it as quick as possible, Time Master is really a clear recommendation for you. So, hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you soon in one of my next videos. I think really next time I will focus on my playthrough of Sire, and then before I show you a next, let's say, review of a game I purchased in Essen. So, hope to see you soon, and until then, bye-bye.